Anthony Grassi here for College.town at the 2025 NACDA Convention. Happy to sit down with Adams State Director of Athletics, Katelyn Smith. Katelyn, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So as we sit down here, you have just wrapped up year 5 as the Director of Athletics, year 10 at Adams State. What has been, let's start here. When you started working in the athletic department a decade ago, did you think you would be here?
Oh, absolutely not, no.
What was, when you started at that point, did you have, I'm always curious about the people that become an AD, did you have that as your goal in mind? Did you have a career goal in mind at that time?
Yeah, no, I came to Adams State thinking I wanted to be a coach. I think that was what most people think after they play a college sport, that you automatically go into coaching. So that was not the case for me. So I learned that pretty quickly, that coaching was not where I wanted to be. At that point, I realized I was having more fun with the back end of things, right? I'm having more fun doing the travel ops and logistics than actually coaching. So was able to move into that business manager role. And at that point, I realized I wanted to be around sport, college athletics, but did not think at that time I would become an athletic director.
Were there things in coaching that maybe turned you off from it, or was it more the other side of it just drew you in so much?
I just hated recruiting. I hated, there were just a lot of things about it. It was great. I'm so glad I did it still, but I was just finding, I found a passion for the other side of coaching that realized I needed to be on that other end, back end of things.
So as you make that transition out of coach to administrator, how easy, I guess, was the transition for you?
I think fairly easy. I think obviously, Adams State, it's a small institution, so I knew what our coaches were doing, right? Like I was the business manager and really kind of served all the coaches. So I felt like I knew what they needed because I was in their role. So I really do think that actually helped me kind of navigate that position.
So as you transition from business manager up to co-AD and then to ultimately to the chair, what steps have you taken to maybe learn from a certain person or say, I'm missing this experience that I may not have gotten so far? How have you gone about that self-awareness, that self-reflection?
Yeah, so it happened very fast, so much to where I felt like, oh my goodness, I need to slow down, figure out a lot of things about me. But with that, because it happened so fast and because I felt like I was sort of thrown into the role, I just had to figure it out. And so that was something that I learned a lot about myself in that. But now I actually just attended the NCAA facilitation workshop. And I did that because I felt like, well, as an AD, I find myself having to speak in front of people a lot. And that is not my favorite thing. And so that was not a skill that I had been able to really develop yet. So I've started to now realize through it what I might need, what I lack, and have really figured out a lot about myself.
What were some of the things that when you first stepped into the chair, that you had that self-awareness to understand, here's the areas where I don't think I'm the best at?
Yeah, I think obviously when you're in that spot, the personnel, the hire and fire, I'm definitely like, how do I do this? I had no idea. So I really just leaned on people. My predecessor, Larry Mortensen, who was the AD before me, I started to build connections and relationships throughout the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. There's an incredible amount of ADs in that conference that I was really able to lean on. So looking at that, and yeah, just that leading an entire department, what does that look like? I think that it could be very overwhelming when you first take over because you see what other people are doing. And I truly had to kind of take a self-reflection in that as well and just realize I need to be myself. I can't do it the way everyone else is doing it or other people are doing it because that won't work for me and then it does not work for my department. So a lot of adapting and adjusting there.
How did you lead through that? Because obviously I completely understand you get thrown into a role and you go, okay, there's a skill set or a part of the skill set that I'm missing to do this job successfully. But I'm still in this role. I can't take time away to go, all right, I need X number of months to say, all right, I'm going to refine this skill, and then I'll get back to doing what I'm doing. You're still in this role. So what steps are you doing through that to, maybe in the example of hiring and firing, finding out, going through the process, asking the right questions, trying to gain that maybe emotional intelligence for people? What does all that look like for you?
Yeah, I think, no, and it's so true. You don't just have time to go do things. And I think time is such an incredible, a critical thing in college athletics in the worlds that we live in, right? And so I feel like I just relied heavily on my strong suits. I relied heavily on okay, I know I'm a people person, so I know I have to take my emotions out of it, but I can still treat people like they're human when you're having those tough conversations. And that's okay to do. You don't have to, I didn't want to lose that part of me, I guess. And just, looking at all the things I've had to learn and something I like to do, I love hard work. I love work. I hate being bored, I tell people. So staying busy would also help me in this role, to where I just would spend more time having to figure out if I had to and ask my resources across campus. I worked very closely with HR, for example, when it came to personnel, and kind of like, hey, where to start? And that has taken me to where now, it's pretty, I have it kind of that step-by-step process down. So it took time, but it took just a lot of that in and out of work, honestly. You have to do a lot of things outside of your office, I'll tell you that.
So how are you communicating with, phrase this way, as you have developed, you are obviously picking up a bunch of skills. How are you then passing those learnings on to, whether that's your network, your staff, your coaches, because they all, in some form or fashion, need those similar skills, whether they're in this role now or they will be in a role that needs that skill set in the future. Yeah,
and that's a really interesting point too, right? I think in some cases your athletic director, they've been there a while, have it all figured out, and they can really instill their staff. I felt like I was still figuring it out, and I struggled with that delegation piece at first. I'm kind of just used to, I fully admit, I'm somewhat of a control freak, and so I just was like, nope, I do it, I got it, and being in that business manager role was almost harder because people were so used to coming to me for everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just do it because it's what I do. And so pulling that out of it to where I'm like, no, so-and-so's got it, so-and-so's got it. So I've really tried to build my staff up in that way and just let them know that I trust them to do it. And because I know when I was in that role, I was going to fail. Of course, everybody fails. And so it's okay to fail. It's okay to, you're going to learn, you're going to grow. We're going to do this together. And then also instilling it when the funding's there to start sending my staff to those professional development opportunities that I didn't necessarily get before I got into this position.
How did you think through that transition of everybody needing you, and obviously they still do, but you being a certain level of resource for somebody and transitioning to, I have a role that extends beyond that and I can't always be that for you. How did you kind of manage your way through that? Because that's not you don't want to be cold and say, hey, this is the way it is now. But that's kind of the way it needs to be, because all that time that gets taken away from you is time that you could spend doing other things in leading the department forward. Yeah, so it really was for me to kind of reach a breaking point in a sense of just like, wow, this is not sustainable. And also hiring the right people. So we had a lot of staff transition and turnover, and I really found was being just very deliberate in who I was hiring. And then for me to, again, kind of pull off the leash a little bit, right? Like, let's trust my staff. And just being able to instill that in them that they can do it, and for me to trust them that I don't have to be involved in everything, and that's actually felt really weirdly really good, because I think we've got such a good staff underneath me that I'm able to do that. It took time, and it took, like I said, it was a kind of a breaking point for me, and I really just had to figure out how to shift my thinking from that day to day to that bigger picture, that bigger vision. Where do I want this department to be? And part of that too is I have a phenomenal president right now, who really has been able to help me kind of pull that out. So I've really leaned on him for that mentorship as well. In that leadership piece, are there things you've developed, whether that's your personal mission, your core values, that have helped you develop and grow as a leader?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think a lot of it, kind of back to what I was talking about earlier, was just me kind of figuring out myself, right? I think it's when you're just go all the time and doing all the little things, you're doing this, you're doing that, I just really needed to take a step back and feel like, okay, what is my vision? What are my goals? What are my non-negotiables as well? And that's something that I've really tried to stick to and go through the day-to-day, the week-to-week, the month-to-month. So I'll tell you, it took a lot of time. People would ask me, and I'm just like, I have no idea. This is what I do this. But it's like, no, I'm trying to lead our department in this direction. And then it's like, well, how do I do that? And I do this, and this. So it's weird. It's like this giant puzzle that I feel like has kind of started to come together, but there's still missing pieces, don't get me wrong. So
was there a process or a criteria that you went through to say, to define maybe what those core values were, those non-negotiables?
We've done a couple like professional developments like on campus that
Okay.
I think I've been able to pull that out because I'd never had that sort of training before. As I attend different sessions, throughout the conventions, NCAA, NACDA, all of those, really try to figure out ways that I've maneuvered that, but it's been kind of trial and error too, which I think is okay, and figuring out what works for me. Yeah.
As you sit here now, what advice would you give to year one AD Katelyn Smith?
Oh my gosh. We have to think also, year one was straight COVID. So
Yeah.
that
So-
was,
well, I guess we can put the caveat of
yeah.
the chaos
Yes.
version and the non-chaos version.
Yes.
I guess the year one versus the year two.
Almost like year two.
Yeah.
But I do think I learned a lot about myself in that year one because it forced me to have to lead a department through absolute chaos and uncertainty. When all the coaches are looking at you and you're just like, all right, we got to figure this out. And also teamwork in a weird way. I couldn't manage the COVID, the testing, all the things without, my staff. So it actually forced us to have to figure out systems and put things in place in that communication. So I really think I'm glad that happened in a weird way because I learned a lot and that forced me to just have to grow. And I think, year two, I think a lot of that came down to now that we're out of COVID, you're like, well, how do I lead a department? I have no idea. And I think for me, it would just be trust myself and just continue to stick to who I am, that I don't need to be somebody that I'm not. And I think that every single year you've learned so much, and it's crazy to think how fast 5 years goes and how long ago that all feels. Yeah.
As you head into year 6 and beyond, how do you think about starting each academic year fresh with a new message to help inspire your staff, coaches, student athletes?
Yeah, definitely. For me to instill that, I have to be fresh. So I really try to take the time to sit down and think about what do we want to accomplish this year, what are our big things that we're looking at, try to give our coaches and staff that time off as well to know like, hey, once August hits, like it's go time. So really a lot of communication. I think I rely so heavily on personal relationships, and so it's just having that trust, knowing that all of our coaches know that they can work through things. We can work through things together. I'm actually really excited about this year because for the first time, knock on wood, I'm not doing a search this summer. So I've got all my coaches, I have all my staff. So I feel like we are actually a little ahead, and we can really hit the ground running come fall. And I feel like everybody's on board and just excited to continue to move forward.
What do you think that consistency and leadership will turn into for the athletic department?
Yeah, hopefully, obviously we all want to win. We're all competitive in nature, so want to win, but I want to see just our coaches thrive. I want to see our staff thrive, and at the end of the day, it's the student athletes that keep me going, and I want to see them, thrive. I want to see them having good experiences on and off the court or the field, all of that. They're graduating, they're doing all the right things, because that really, truly is then why we're all here. And I think it starts at the top, and then it goes to your coaches, and then it goes to them. So I think it's just a really cool to see everything finally moving in the same direction.
I'll ask you this last question. Let's think of year 10 AD Katelyn Smith. What additional skill set, what additional leadership traits would you like that individual to have?
Yeah, no, that's a tough question, and I think 10 years feels like, oh my gosh, that's like forever. But no, I just think I want to continue to, that confidence piece, I think, being able to manage and lead, and just kind of goes back to, again, being true to who I am and just rolling with it, really. Better just like that understanding that bigger picture, the vision, and then how to continue to instill that, because things are going to change, especially nowadays. It's changing every single day, and so making sure that I'm continuing to be adaptable, flexible, being able to pivot and navigate, and I think those are things I'm going to continue to work on in myself, and know that it's okay if something doesn't go the way you thought it was. But we need to have that plan to go this direction if needed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Katelyn, thank you so much for joining me today at the 2025 NACDA Convention.
Yep. Thank you so much.